everybody, I hope all is well. You know what? Let me just get straight to it. I have to apologize because I meant to do a video the day before yesterday to let you guys know about this series that started today regarding the prevention of Alzheimer's. So my apologies. I did share it on Facebook and LinkedIn and on Instagram, but I didn't do a video about it. So if by the end of this video, if you want to go ahead and opt in to get access to the rest of the series, then you can click the link in my bio. If you're watching from YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, then the link is in the description. If you're watching on Instagram, then the link is in the bio. So that being said, let me go ahead and bring you up to speed with why I'm even sharing this awakening from Alzheimer's, this prevention series. Like, why am I just sharing this information with you? Okay, so I am gonna do a separate video of my story to give a lot more color to what I'm about to share, but for the sake of time, here's the short of the long. So in my family line on my mom's side, Alzheimer's I believe it's hereditary. My great grandfather, when he passed away, he had Alzheimer's. My great aunt, when she passed away from Alzheimer's. My grandmother, who is the sister to my great aunt and the daughter of my great grandfather, she currently has, I think it's stage 4 Alzheimer's. And my mother, who is the daughter of my grandmother and the niece of my great aunt and the granddaughter of my great grandfather, she has been diagnosed with early stages of dementia. So you could probably understand where I would have red flags raised, because I am my mother's daughter, I am my grandmother's granddaughter, I am my great aunt's great niece, I am my great grandfather's great granddaughter. So I'm in the lineage. So when I found out that my mother was diagnosed with mild cognitive decline at the time, small antennas went up about this disease in a way that it hadn't before. So I started to study. And at that time, I wasn't really worried because my mom was showing very, very small symptoms. You know, the symptoms like, where did I put my keys? You know, that type of a thing where you just chop it up to, Ma, you put them right there, or to just being older. It was nothing that was, you know, really, really big. So my interest was there, but it wasn't a huge priority. Over time, what began to happen, and my grandmother at that time, when my mom first got diagnosed, my grandmother was even, she was well into her stages, but she wasn't where she is now. So even with her, some of it you still put in the bucket of, okay, she's just getting older. That was about 5 to 6 years ago. Over the course of those 5 to 6 years, my mom's health began to decline. And it started out small, and then it began to progress to the point where you could, at first it wasn't as noticeable, and then it became very noticeable. At one point in time, anytime that I went home to visit my parents, you could always count on a great meal. My mom is a really great cook. And for a while, even with her memory being impaired, she still was able to perform functions like cooking, and cooking well. But it's that, you know, it's the first time that you have that meal and it tastes saltier than normal, or it's missing something, or she forgot about one of the pans and so it's a little burnt. That's when I started to notice, okay, something is definitely different here. When phone calls that you used to get on a regular basis to, when she's checking in on you and then those calls stop, you start to notice when she's having difficulty on her computer. She's always on the computer. She started to have difficulty on the computer, having difficulty with her cell phone, remembering her, her medication, like all of these different things. I can go on and on, but I won't. The point is that over time, I started to see that. So the more I saw, now this is from a distance because I don't live there. It's my mom and my dad. My dad was giving us, my sisters and I, he's very thorough. So he would send us these like monthly reports really of what happened during that month that, it would probably fall under the list as the result of her cognitive decline. So it was very clear that my mom's health was deteriorating. So the more it was deteriorating, the more I was determined to find, one, to learn more about this disease, but two, it was just really, really difficult for me to digest that there was no way to stop this disease. Like, it just did not understand it. It didn't make sense, because it wasn't like, okay, I got this infection or I got this thing. It was like, this doesn't make sense. So I went on my journey. Long story short, that journey led me to a doctor by the name of Dr. Dale Bredesen, who wrote a book, The End of Alzheimer's. And me reading that book and seeing him say in that book that Alzheimer's disease doesn't have to be what it is, that Alzheimer's disease is preventable and reversible. Like, that was all I needed to fuel my belief that what we were being told from doctors just wasn't true. It just wasn't accurate. That led me on a journey to just study more and more. So I read his book, and any doctor that was mentioned, I would read up on them and start following them. And then it was just kind of, you know how you go on YouTube, you watch one video, you go to another. That's how my research journey has been. And as that happened, I started to, I was focused on how could I support my dad in understanding how he could support my mom in reversing this. But at the same time, I'm daughter in that mode, but I'm also mom and wife over here. And, I'm at that time, it was a family of 2 and then 3 and then now 4 kids with my husband. I'm the leader of the pack as it relates to our health. So I had to really pull myself back and say, I have to empower myself so that I can know what to do for me and my family. So to do that, I went to the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, IIN, and coincidentally, this Awakening from Alzheimer's series came out last year, actually, or the year before that. This is like the 3rd round of it. So this is my 3rd time watching it. So I am basically studying the brain, and I'm also studying just health in general, because it all comes together, which is what I learned by becoming a health coach. That being said, I am extremely passionate about bringing awareness to the importance of us paying attention to our brain health and understanding how empowered we really are to take control of our brain health, to understand how devastating of a disease Alzheimer's is, and to help support and encourage people to make the necessary changes today so that they can have a positive impact on their brain health tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, we are our brains. Like, that's who you are. Your brain makes up your personality, your mood, your thinking. You are your brain. So with Awakening from Alzheimer's, this series that was put together, I believe it's by Dr. Perlmutter, Dr. David Perlmutter, Dr. Dale Bredesen is in here, Dr. Mark Hyman. I mean, it's so cool because as I've been as I've been learning and on my journey, a lot of the doctors that are in this series, I've heard of them or I've discovered them in different ways over the course of these past few years. So seeing a lot of them in one spot is very comforting, because what you are going to find out is what I found out not too long ago, is that there are not as many medical practitioners as you might think that knows the information that's going to be shared in this series, which is disheartening, but at the same time, it's growing. More and more doctors are opening up to the idea that, wait a minute, gut health and brain health are connected. Wait a minute, everything is happening from the brain is impacted by these other things. Like, doctors are opening up to that, and so now they're learning more. So it was very encouraging. I figure everybody is not going to tune in to this 12-day series. I get it. People are busy. I'm not expecting for people to just automatically understand how important their brain health is and to just be all excited. So I said, how can I help? I can help by being a conduit. I enjoy learning. So maybe it's kind of like I'll take the notes for you and I'll let you use it to study. So I'm going to be taking notes during this whole series, and each night I'm going to make a video, whether it be recorded or live, and just share the notes. It's more note heavy, like I'm literally reading from my notebook. I will do my best to be as succinct as possible and keep it simple. At the same time, I just ask that you allow yourself to receive the information. Please don't be distracted by the messenger. I might not say everything exactly the right way. I'm not a doctor. I'm a health coach now. I'm not a doctor. I am sharing the information that I have learned and that I am around. So open yourself up to receiving it in a way that will be serving for you and your family. Don't look at the time. Don't press the screen to see how much longer is she going to be talking. Like, please do yourself a favor and disregard that for the sake of this. Just do yourself that favor. I promise you that if you just allow yourself to get the information and you actually apply it, you and your brain will thank you later. So let's go ahead and dig in. Okay, so the series is called Awakening from Alzheimer's, the Science of Prevention. And the first episode was entitled The Alzheimer's Epidemic. Our brain plays a critical role in our being. We are our brains. Feelings, decisions, emotions, thinking, creativity, forming relationships. We are our brains. So why then do we not care for it? Brain disease keeps people away from having that kind of a life with great feelings and thoughts and interactions and creativity. And the most important of them would be Alzheimer's disease. In the US alone, approximately 5.8 million people have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Currently, there are 40 million people diagnosed with Alzheimer's around the world. That's a lot. About every 3 seconds, someone is diagnosed with dementia. Of those, the most common form is Alzheimer's disease. In the US, we are spending approximately $250 billion in caring for Alzheimer's patients, and that number exceeds $1 trillion globally. Experts expect that these numbers are going to grow, and it's the fastest growing epidemic in the West. So if you live to be 85, your risk of getting Alzheimer's is 50-50. That's a coin toss. Let's define what dementia actually is. Dementia is a general term for loss of memory, language, problem solving, and other thinking abilities that are severe enough to interfere with daily life. Alzheimer's is a subcategory of, or subtype rather, of dementia. So think Ford Explorer. So dementia would be the car make, would be the Ford brand, and Alzheimer's would be the Explorer. It would be the type of Ford that you have. So the type of dementia that you have. There are different pathways to getting Alzheimer's disease. It's not, you know, you can only get it this one way. That's not how you get it. Alzheimer's is the third leading cause of mortality and morbidity in the US. It's the number one in the UK and Japan, and it is growing. Over the last 15 years, prevalence and mortality from Alzheimer's has grown by 123%, y'all, over the last 15 years. Meanwhile, heart disease and cancer, diabetes has gone down some. It's still very, you know, important. But the point is like, look at how big of an increase that is over the course of 15 years. So every family will be affected by this disease in the next few years. This is a global trillion-dollar problem that will break Medicare and change healthcare throughout the world. Alzheimer's is devastating to families and loved ones on all levels, and the caregivers have it worse. And I can attest to that. So one thing I can say is that Alzheimer's disease definitely has a trickle-down effect as it relates to the impact on the family. And so let's just say you have the person who has the disease. Well, there's a period in time where they know they have it. Like they know enough to know that something is up, which could make a person, now that person can't do certain things, and he or she knows that. Like my mom knows that there are certain things she can't do anymore. She knows that there are limitations on her. She knows that something is up. That creates stress, anxiety, possibly depression for that individual. That in turn leaves whoever is tending to them, whether it's their spouse, in my mom's case, my dad, or a friend or a family member who now becomes the caregiver. Now the caregiver has to either double up with what they're doing. So whatever their life was, now they have to add being the caregiver, or sacrifices start to come into play. So now I can no longer do X because I have to care for this person. And you're also watching this person start to turn into someone that you don't necessarily know. And you are the person who has to witness what the person who has the illness is experiencing through the depression, through the agitation, the aggravation, the mood swings, all of that stuff. Then you figure the external family. So in our case, it's my dad who is my mom's caregiver. Well, now he naturally leans on my sisters and I for support and to step in. Well, that then becomes something on us. And that becoming something on us then becomes something on our individual households, our families, our husbands, our kids. Now that becomes something that for the caregiver, it's very easy for them to start to neglect their own health. So now their medical expenses are going up. And so in every little individual Alzheimer's case, you have that happening. Now imagine that happening. Think of the numbers. Think of how quickly this is growing and how many people are already impacted. That's a whole little community for each one of those numbers. Well, on a greater scale, that's going to be a huge financial burden, and not for nothing, that's going to be a huge health situation. So just to keep that all into perspective on how this whole trickle effect can impact so many. So why is Alzheimer's, why is it increasing at the pace that it's increasing? So the first reason is because we are an aging society. We're living longer, and the baby boomers are going into this. They're in that bracket where they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s. So it's showing up obviously a lot more with them, but we are living longer. And two, environmental changes. So there's lots of things that we are adding to our foods, we're adding to our waters. There's a lot more stuff in our environment that has a huge impact. The third thing is lifestyle. The way that we live our lives, the changes that we've made over time. And when I say we, I mean individually, but I also mean as a collective civilization. The way that we do things is totally different than where we started as a people. And a lot of the habits we have right now are not as healthy as they once were. The two biggest drivers are said to be the lifestyle and the environmental factors. Almost all of the changes are driving a process at the heart of Alzheimer's and virtually every other chronic degenerate condition you can think of, and that is inflammation. Inflammation comes from the Latin word inflammare. I think I'm pronouncing that right, which means to set on fire. Okay? Inflammation is present in the brains of nearly all Alzheimer's patients. This is different than the healthy type of inflammation that helps you to heal when you break something or when you cut yourself. Instead, this is a chronic, fiery process that's damaging to the body and especially to the brain. Chronic inflammation is linked to all manner of diseases. Chronic inflammation equals chronic diseases. Okay? Heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, Alzheimer's, the list goes on. But it's not going to show up like, you're not going to get a swollen finger because your brain is inflamed. It's hidden, it's silent. You don't know about it. By the time you get symptoms, it's been inflamed for years. The brain only has but so many ways to say, ouch, hey, stop, treat me better. You messing me up here. It only has but so many ways to tell you that. And so one of the ways that it tells you that is by becoming demented and you lose your memory. So treating the inflammation is critical. It's critical. However, you don't focus on where the inflammation is. You focus on why the inflammation is there, like treating and tending to what is causing the inflammation. It's kind of like you need to know, where is there cell-to-cell impairment? Like, where in my body are things not communicating with one another the way that they should be? Where is my body under attack? Where is my body on fire? Where is my body poisoned? Where is my body dehydrated? Where is my body stressed out? Where is my body exhausted? All of these things you have to start to figure out in order for you to address the source of the inflammation. And it's possible. It might sound like a lot, but it's possible. The way Alzheimer's starts is different than what many of us originally thought. And we'll get into that, later. It's a multi-dimensional and multi-pronged situation. Some people first develop insulin resistance via diabetes or pre-diabetes, and this starts the inflammatory cascade, or the inflammatory avalanche, if you will, which eventually leads to inflammation in the brain. The brain then becomes overwhelmed, which leads to amyloid and tau and the neuronal damage. But more importantly, axonal damage. The connections between neurons are damaged. So the neurons themselves become damaged, and the connection between the two become damaged. One of the first areas affected is the area of focus and short-term memory. We need a multi-pronged approach to address Alzheimer's disease, not a silver bullet approach, because that does not exist. What is actually happening in the Alzheimer's brain? So there's changes in the cellular components that disrupt the way cells communicate with one another. There are disruptions in gene expression patterns. There's changes in how the chemicals in the brain are created and how they're released. And this all results in the overall destruction of the brain, affecting brain function, personality, and mood. The changes in the brain that lead to Alzheimer's disease begins 20 to 30 years before symptoms begin, maybe even earlier. This is why prevention is the best approach to not getting Alzheimer's. It's never too late to start, but the sooner you begin, the more benefits you gain. Don't wait for symptoms to show up before you think about this, before you start taking control of this. We have to start early, basically at the prenatal level, because what the mother eats affects the children's risk of disease. And then for our children, once they're out of our wombs, as they're growing, what they eat, that affects them. Just stop for 1 second if you have children and think about what your kids eat. And this is no judgment. This is really just stop and think about what your kids eat. Even if your kids are older, what did you feed your kids when they were with you? What do your kids eat now? Are your kids overweight? Are they loaded with sugars? Are they eating a really nice whole foods type of a diet? Are they drinking juice, soda? Are they eating candy and cakes and cupcakes? Are they eating a bunch of cereal and chips? Are they eating fast foods? Are they eating a bunch of refined carbohydrates, processed foods? In my opinion, kids have it worse because they're at the mercy of us. And depending on what our economic state is, our mental and emotional state, our stress level, our education of what we should and should not be eating, all of those things play a major role in what we put before our kids. Some of us feed our kids crap purely because it's convenient. No judgment at all. I have 4 kids, so I've gone through my own journey with, really having to take a step back and say, why am I feeding them this? Oh, I'm feeding them hot dogs, beans, and corn because it's cheap, it's convenient, it's quick. Like, that's why I'm giving that. Okay, that's not good enough, because what does that connect to? I had to check myself. And I consistently have to do that because I'm not perfect. So I overemphasize this because kids can't advocate for themselves. We have to advocate for them to ourselves. Just, if you could just do that, just pull back and see what you give them. And don't make excuses. Don't make excuses like, oh, they're young, or oh, but it's just this one, or don't make excuses. Call yourself out on it. Call yourself out on it and be okay with it, and then do something about it. So what else do we need to look at? Look at your exposure to toxins. Look at your biomarkers relating to Alzheimer's. If you know some of the different things that can cause Alzheimer's, then you, in prevention mode, should be checking those things with yourself. So for instance, your vitamin B level, your hormone levels, your glucose and insulin levels, like managing all of those things. What is your gut health like? Your toxic load, the level of exercise, sleep, and stress management. These all play a huge role. So if you live a life where you are managing these things, then you are reducing your risk of Alzheimer's tremendously. 1 in 4 teenagers has pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. That's frightening. That is frightening, because these people are at risk for Alzheimer's. So if you are in your 20s or 30s, it's important to focus on these issues. If you have belly fat, that is not a good thing. Dr. Mark Hyman is so big on belly fat. He said if you have any belly fat, that is not good for your heart or your brain. Period. It's not good. I don't care how happy you are. No shade to anybody. I'm on my own weight loss journey. I get it. But at the end of the day, you can't, like, it is what it is what it is. Belly fat is belly fat, and it's directly correlated with your brain health. In fact, Dr. Mark Hyman, he said belly fat is brain damage. That's what he said on the video. I didn't even write it down that way. I said it could correlate to it, but he was hardcore with it. Like, if you look him up, Dr. Mark Hyman, he doesn't play with that. So he said belly fat is brain damage. Don't shoot the messenger. Western medicine has trained us to think that you can live how you like, and if a problem arises, you could take this magic pill and all will be well. That might be true for some diseases, but that is just not the case with Alzheimer's disease. There is no meaningful treatment that we know of, and treatment, like, you can't go into the doctor or the hospital, say I have Alzheimer's, and they're like, okay, this is gonna be, like, we'll hook you up to this, and that's what it's gonna, that doesn't exist. What we do know is that preventative strategies are really, really effective. So it's interesting that something that does not have a cure, much of the research is showing that it's highly preventable. Isn't that interesting? Something you can get that you can't cure it because there's no magic pill, but you could totally or almost totally prevent it. So I'm sure the $1 million question is, well, if all this is the case with Alzheimer's and it's so horrible, but I can prevent it, then what should I be doing now? And I just want to say before I list these things that this series is going to go into deeper detail on what we can be doing, what we should be doing, so that by the end of this 12-day series, you feel, really, really empowered. But this is general. So we're going to just do it generally right now. Number 1 is diet. Diet is extremely important. Dr. Dale Bredesen says that you should get into getting yourself into a mild ketosis, which they're going to go into that further into the series. Have an anti-inflammatory diet. Avoiding processed foods, refined carbs, and vegetable oils. Oh my God, I can't stand it. Every time I see somebody who has these oils, I just want to throw them away. So vegetable oils, eliminate them. You want to improve your insulin sensitivity. You want to optimize your microbiome in your gut. Again, they're going to get into deeper details about this. And appropriate times of fasting. Fasting has proven to be extremely important to the brain health because it gives the brain the time to focus on cleansing, washing really the brain, and not focusing on digesting food. And also your brain can get into a quicker state of ketosis when it doesn't, when you're not giving it more glucose, because with ketosis you're burning fat, you're getting into the fat burning mode, but you can't get there until you've burnt off all of your glucose. So if you keep eating, you don't give your body enough time to digest and be clear so that it can wash itself, which is why usually if you go to sleep during your fasting times, it's helpful, because when you go to sleep, your brain, that's when it does all of its cleansing. So very important. They're going to get deeper into that, I'm sure. The other thing is exercise, both strength training and aerobic. And I talked about this in one of my other videos. Physical activity does not have to be that you're like going to the gym. Figure out ways, if that's not your thing. Like, you know, some people, I like to work out. Like, I like to, whatever. I like to work out. But some people, you know, that's not their thing per se. So get creative. You know, if you like jumping rope, then go jump some rope. Or if you like parks, then go find some parks to walk fast and slow in, and do a couple of some push-ups and some squats and burpees along the way. Or, you know, I am big on use your kids' energy to get you up and moving. Dance. Turn on some music. Go back old school. Turn on some music from the 80s, the 90s, whatever, and start dancing. Get your body hot, get your heart pumping. So there's so many different ways you can look at exercise without it being this death sentence. You know what I mean? Like, you can learn to enjoy getting your physical activity in. And you only have to do it like 30 minutes. I think they said 30 minutes, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, or 30 minutes every day would really be good. Just, you know, get some movement in. Sleep at least 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep. Here's the thing, because this jacked me up too. Because I have interacted with a lot of people who I learned that at certain points in your life, you gotta hustle, and you have to be willing to lose sleep to hustle, legally hustle, to lose sleep, to, you know, to do what you need to do. You're young, so, you know, you can get by on a few hours of sleep. You are, you know, like, you're focused, or you might be in school, you might be building a business, you might be working a job like crazy hours, and you think that because you're in your 20s or you're in your 30s that your sleep doesn't really matter. In fact, I was in a network marketing company, and one of the guys who was in it, he used to say sleep is the cousin of death. One of my podcasts that I follow, actually, I hate his title because it goes against this. It's called Sleep is for Suckers. It's a really great podcast. No shade, but it is a really great podcast, but I hate that title because sleep is not for suckers. Sleep is actually for people who are smart. Smart enough to know that their body needs that time. Like, you're not sleeping for you as in the, you know, like, your essence. You're sleeping for your body. Your body physically needs time to get itself together. So we have to do much better, in my opinion. I can just say, like, in my community of people, we have to do much better with overemphasizing the importance of great quality sleep. There's just got to be a way to get your hustle on and still give your body what it needs. Stress, reducing your stress levels. And Dr. Bredesen, he said, you know, I wanted to say that meditation and stuff like that doesn't work, but he said all of the science shows otherwise. So meditation, among other things, but meditation is super duper duper important for your brain health and for managing your stress levels. And then we have brain training. And so he said do that a few times a week. And that, you know, like, there's different things. There's like Lumosity. There's all these brain training types of apps and stuff. But that's, you know, like, that's cool to have. But go a step further. Learning a new language. Like, I wanna learn how to master playing the piano and learn Spanish. Just anything that that makes your brain hurt. Like, anything that pushes you to stretch yourself. Your brain is a muscle and it likes it. This is how I'm looking at it. I look at it like, I used to have 2 dogs, and whenever we would go outside and we were gonna play fetch, they got so excited. Like, they were just so excited to do that. So anything that you could think of that just creates nice movement and stretch and, you know, like fun and excitement and newness, and your brain loves that. Your brain will thank you. Your brain will appreciate the new and the better environment that you've created for them. And so in the spirit of the dogs, if your brain was your pet, like if currently your current brain was your pet, do you have the pet? Do you have the dog? Like think of Lady and the Tramp. Is your brain Lady or the Tramp? Is your brain happy to be living in your nice, you know, is your brain being treated like it's royalty and eating off of, you know, great china and stuff? Or is your brain like the Tramp and you digging in garbage cans and you outside in the cold with no place to go? Like, how are you treating your brain? Your brain will thank you if you treat it right. There's hormone balancing, nutrients, and herbs which you can talk to your practitioner about. All right, people, in my Kevin Hart voice. So preventing Alzheimer's is about awareness, empowerment, and execution. And we all have the ability to improve our brain health if we use what we're learning, if we implement what we're learning. Approximately 95% of Alzheimer's can be prevented because it's only a little less than 5% where genetics seems to have a very high penetrance. Could this 5% be prevented? We don't know yet. Study, you know, they have to do more studies with that. So it could be the case that even more than 95% is preventable. So basically, you're at least 95% in control of whether or not you get it. Okay? I love what one of the doctors said. She said, don't be discouraged, feel powerful, because you could go to the supermarket and potentially reduce your risk of Alzheimer's disease. Today is the day. And remember, you are your brain. How do you want your life to be? When you think of your life long term, you want it to be full and vibrant and exciting and joyful and happy. You want it to be all of these things. The only way that's gonna happen is if your brain is all of those things, because you are your brain. So why don't you do the things that you need to do to ensure that your brain can be that way, and therefore you get to be that way. So that's all for tonight. Again, if you watch this to the end, you will not regret it. Your brain will not regret it. There's only but so much I can do to make information, like to condense the information, because the information is the information. And unfortunately, we don't know enough about it. A lot of people don't know enough about it to kind of cut corners and make it, you know, let me just share 10 minutes with you. I gotta go into the information so that we know it. So thank you for taking the time for yourself to get the information. I'm gonna be doing the same thing for tomorrow's episode. Tomorrow's episode is called Untangling Alzheimer's Disease, What's Going Wrong, and they're gonna be covering the gaps in the current standard of care and why we have failed to develop therapies. So I am gonna go now, but in the meantime, if you want to register for the remaining days, again, go to the link in my bio. If you're on Instagram, go to the link in the description. If you're watching this from YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, you'll go to my link. It's a Linktree link, and then when you click there, you'll see I'll have a link up for registering for Awakening from Alzheimer's Disease. So please feel free to share this. It's free. It costs you nothing to share this information with your family, with your friends. Share the link, the Awakening from Alzheimer's link, with your family and your friends. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great one.